The Jacobs Ladder Show, the international internet broadcast online interview talk radio show, exploring ladders of success with Carolyn and Stephen Jacobs. Broadcast live from fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, every Tuesday from 1 to 3 p.m., featuring one guest per hour. Each guest tells us their life story with a one-on-one interview with either Carolyn or Stephen Jacobs. Featured guests include singers, dancers, musicians, entertainers, and entrepreneurs on their ladders of success. Now, here's Carolyn and Stephen Jacobs.
This is Carolyn Jacobs with the Jacobs Ladder Show, where we are live every Tuesday from 1 to 3 p.m. We feature one guest per hour on their ladder of success. But I do want to give a thank you out to that beautiful theme show. Jacobs Ladder Show theme music is a jazz original composition entitled Go With It by jazz composer, arranger, and trumpeter David Perico and his Pop Evolution Orchestra. Stephen, who do you have today on your Ladder of Success interview?
Well, Carolyn, a lot of times, I go through a lot of accolades before I say the name, but I think the name stands for every accolade there's possible. Lance Burton, Master Magician, is my guest today.
Hey, Stephen, nice to see you.
Nice seeing you.
Great being here.
It's great to have you on the show. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed your performances over the years, and you've done some amazing things, and you've got an amazing life, and you've done a really other neat thing.
I've lived a very blessed life. Yeah, I'm very grateful for everything that's happened to me, and can't say thank you enough.
Oh yeah, it's one might even say magical.
And look at that photo. Look at it. And I just tweeted a photo of us.
Great.
And that we took in the studio. Look at all those handsome people there. Don't we look good? And people can if they want, if you're on Twitter, I'm Lance Burton MM for Master Magician.
Master Magician.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
of course Lance Burton and all the other social media, the Facebook and so forth.
As well.
So before we get to Lance Burton's new adventure,
yeah, that's a good way to put it.
We're going to start where we always start with our show. We're going to ask our opening question now, and that is, where were you born?
I was born in Louisville, Kentucky.
Know it well.
March 10th, 1960. And how do you know Louisville? Have you spent time there?
Yeah, I was born in Indianapolis.
Oh, well, that's 100 miles away.
And my grandfather was a handicapper.
Oh, well, yeah, Churchill Downs.
That's right.
And by the way, if anyone is listening in Louisville, I do know the proper way to pronounce the city.
Louisville,
that's right. If you live there, you say Louisville.
Right.
But here's the problem now. Once you leave the city and you come out west, for instance, like I did in 1981, and people would say, "Where are you from?" I'd say Louisville. They go, "What?"
Where?
they had no idea what I was saying, so I had to relearn how to say the name of my hometown. I guess the proper pronunciation is Louisville because it was named after King Louis XVI of France. But of course, those of us who are native there say when I go back, I have to relearn to say Louisville, which happens very quickly. And now here's a little tidbit. If you ever hear somebody say Louisville, that means they're a real hick. That means they're either way out in the country where my folks are from, where my family's from, or they're from Tennessee. I love you, Tennessee. I'm joking.
So tell me, as you grew up in Louisville, what did your dad do?
My dad worked at a building supply company there at 12th and Breckenridge called Levy's Building Supplies. And he started there working on the loading dock. And then eventually over the years, they promoted him till he was in charge of maintenance. He kept all of their trucks and their forklifts and their little carts all in good running order. He was always very good with his hands and working with engines and machinery, and so he was a blue collar working man. And my mother also worked, and she worked at the Frito-Lay potato chip plant.
Bet you can't just eat one.
Making potato chips. And I have a very distinct memory as a kid, because at that, I think they cut this out later on, but at one time, when the shift was over, they would let the employees take some potato chips home, and that weren't used. Sure. They were still on the conveyor belt or whatever. And she used to come home with big giant trash bags full of potato chips. So as a kids, we ate a lot of potato chips. That was our snack of choice.
Wow, that was great. So tell me, do you have any brothers or sisters?
I have a sister, Robin, who is 18 months younger than me, and she is living down in south central Kentucky. There at the farm where was my grandfather's farm, and has 2 kids and has a couple of grandchildren now.
Wow!
And couldn't be happier.
Cool. So tell me at what age did all of a sudden magic get into your mind?
Yes. I got interested in magic at a very young age. It was probably about 1965. I was 5 years old, and it was actually the Christmas party for the employees of the Frito-Lay plant there in Louisville. And even though that was many, many years ago, it was 50 years ago, I still have this incredibly sharp memory of that event, because that shaped my entire life. We were sitting there in the audience at the Christmas party for all the employees of the Frito-Lay plant, and there was a man who was doing a magic show for all the employees, and his name was Harry Collins. And Harry, at that time, was either a salesman or a sales manager for the Frito-Lay plant there in Louisville. Now, later on, they created a job for him. The corporate office at Frito-Lay, which was located in Dallas, they took notice of Harry because he was such a fine magician, such a wonderful, talented magician, and they created a special job for him, and he was Frito-Lay's Goodwill Ambassador, and he would travel all around the country performing as Frito-Lay's Mr. Magic. And he would perform every year at the Texas State Fair, and anytime there was a plant opening or any kind of a snack food convention, he was there representing the company. But as I say, at this time, he was in the sales department at the plant in Louisville, but he was a very, very talented magician, and he was doing a magic show for all the employees and their families. And I'd never seen anything like this. I was a kid, first time I ever saw a magic show, and it was amazing. And I was sitting in the audience with my family, and I noticed up near the stage on the floor there were several children sitting on the floor, and every now and then he would ask for a volunteer from the audience. And the kids sitting up front were the ones that got picked to go up on stage. So I figured that's where I want to be sitting, right up front. So I turn to my parents and I say, hey, can I go up there and sit in the front with the rest of those kids? And they said, yeah, okay, that's fine. So I get up to go. And I only taken about 3 or 4 steps, and I hear my sister, who's like 4 years old, saying, I want to go too. And now I'm thinking, oh, drats,
Another competitor.
She's going to mess this up now. And they said, yeah, you can go. Lance, take your sister, Okay, and I take her hand, and we walk up there, and we sit down. Now, just about the time we sit down, Harry says, all right, I need a volunteer from the audience. Of course, every kid, there was like 20, 30 kids sitting in the floor up front. Every kid's hand went up. And I raised my hand, and Harry Collins looked right at me and pointed at me. He said, okay, this young man right here. And I got to go up on stage. And he reached behind my ear, and he pulled out a silver dollar. And I was just awestruck. I didn't understand how this silver dollar had been behind my ear, and I hadn't noticed it all day long. And then he pulled one out from my elbow and my other ear, and this went on and out from my hair, and this went on, and I was just totally amazed, and I became fascinated with magic. Now I have to preface. Now I have to tell you though that at that age, I didn't understand what I was seeing. I didn't understand what a magician was, that it was sleight of hand, it was an illusion. I thought he had real magic powers.
Oh, okay.
So the next week, I kept, every morning, I'd look in the mirror and I'd feel around behind my ears and
Looking for those dollars.
going, yeah, where is there money here? I just haven't noticed it. And then finally someone explained to me, or I figured out, I don't remember, that, this wasn't real magic, that the guy was an illusionist. Right. This was a skill that he had learned. And then that's when I thought, oh, well, that's good, If it's real magic,
Now I can do it.
If you don't have the power, then that's it.
Right.
You're done. But if it's a skill, you could study and learn. And that set me off on my course of learning magic.
So where did you go now that you've decided that you want to do this? What was your first
I would, of course, at any time a magician came on television, I would watch. I was interested. And you didn't get to see in person that much,
right?
Especially at that time. Right. But I started trying to make up my own card tricks, but they weren't very good. But I must have pestered people enough that they took notice, because one day the lady who lived next door to us, we called Aunt Jane. And she wasn't really an aunt, but we were very close, so we always called her Aunt Jane. She was a little older than my parents. One day she came over and she had in her hand a little book, a little children's book, and it was called Magic Made Easy. And I believe the book had belonged to one of her kids who were now grown.
Sure.
And she found it, and she came over and gave this book to me. And that opened my eyes, because I didn't know there was such a thing as a magic book. And it was just a little book that had maybe 10 really simple tricks that you could learn to do. And so I just spent the next month or two just going over this book, trying to learn all these tricks. And then I got a magic set for Christmas, and then I was off and running, because I had my own, a magic set. I had little props,
right,
that came with the set.
So all of a sudden you're starting to build your first rapport.
Yeah, repertoire. And I would perform wherever I could find an audience, at school, during lunchtime, or for the family, and on holidays.
So anybody that would sit still for you?
Anybody that would sit still, I would do a magic show for them. Exactly right.
Now, were you? Did you have them in the ooh-ah stage yet?
No. I was just learning. I was just trying to learn how to do the tricks.
Right.
And it's very confusing, because you're trying to figure out what's supposed to look like, and then how do you do it? It's hard to learn that from the printed page. And back then we didn't have instructional videos or DVDs.
Right.
Or
it was you had to figure it out from the written word.
You either had a book or with printed instructions, or you had somebody that knew it that was showing it. So that was good. So later on, Harry Collins took notice of my interest in magic, the first magician I had seen, and he became my first mentor in magic.
Terrific, yeah.
Yeah, and Harry would show me, sleight of hand and teach me.
This is how you do
moves. Yeah, exactly. And so that was very, very helpful to have someone older that, could to show you the ropes.
So as you're doing these performances, as you're as we say, cutting your teeth, trying to figure out all this stuff, you got Harry now, who is mentoring you, which is probably was a big leap in your ability, because now you got a guy who really knows how to do it, that's taking you aside and showing you the things. So when was the first time you actually got paid?
Okay, the first show I ever did was in October, because it was a Halloween party, and it must have been around 1972, I'm going to guess, 70 or 72, somewhere around there, because I was only 10 or 12 years old. And the lady next door, Aunt Jane, it was her daughter. She taught Sunday school class at her church, and she was having a Halloween party for all the kids in her Sunday school class. So she asked me if I would do a magic show for them, and I said, "Of course, I'll do a magic show." and I had a little little coat that I wore,
right,
and shirt and tie, and I had a little foot locker that I had all my magic tricks in. And I went and I did a show for the class, and it went over really good. And after the show, I got paid $2.
Wow.
And I went home, and I'd already started a scrapbook. I didn't have any pictures of me to put in the scrapbook, but anytime I would see something in the paper about magic or a magician, I would cut it out and I'd paste it in the scrapbook.
Really? That was quite that was
so I was anything to do with magic. I was fascinated with. So if I saw an article in the paper with a magician's, I would cut that picture out and I would paste it in my scrapbook. So I went home and I opened my scrapbook to the first empty page, and I glued those $2 into the scrapbook.
Tell me you still have the
And I wrote on there, first dollars I've ever made doing magic. And those $2 sat in there for quite a while until I needed some money for something. And I did go back and pull one of those dollars out. I don't know what I bought with it, but I figured, well, I can spend one of the dollars and I'll just keep one. But I still have the first dollar in the scrapbook.
So as you're progressing here and doing things, you're having to get props and cards and other things.
Sure.
Who's helping you with this financing?
Well, that was what I would get whenever my birthday rolled around or Christmas rolled around. My mom would say, "What do you want for your birthday?" "I want magic." And she would. This was another great thing about having a mentor, was that she would talk to Harry at work.
Great.
And she'd say, Lance is crazy about magic, and he and Harry was very. Here's the great thing about Harry was he was a great guy, and everybody loved him, and he was a great role model, and everybody looked up to him because he was such a great guy, and so I had a good role model, and so my parents were happy that I was involved in magic because they looked at Harry and said, well, if he grows up to be like Harry, that'd be great. But Harry would say, that's good, encourage him to do magic. And my mom always used to say, I never had to worry about Lance because I always knew where he was. He was in the basement practicing his act. Right. He wasn't out getting into trouble. Right. But anyway, Harry would, when it was my birthday or Christmas, Harry would say, don't worry, here's what you should get him. And he would recommend a couple of books on magic and maybe some props that I would be able to use. So he kind of guided my magic education.
Well, but how great is it to have a guy that you admired and a guy that was so good, set with the magic as you progressed, as you needed
invaluable.
Amazing. So at what point, I assume you're doing magic through the rest of grade school, and you're also doing it now as you're going through high school.
High school, yeah.
And you're getting paid for some of this stuff now, aren't you?
Now here's I was in high school. I was going to high school, in the daytime.
Right.
And then at nights, I was appearing in like nightclubs.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So yeah, it was. I wasn't even old enough to be in the nightclub.
Right.
And the way that happened, there was a nightclub there in Louisville, and it was called Peter O's, and it was owned by a guy named Peter Outlaw, and he was a nightclub operator.
Right.
And he had opened this club. And he had decided that he was going to have a talent showcase, talent night at his club. So he took out a little ad in the paper or something, looking for people to come, and they were going to have some sort of little talent show, singers, comedians, whatever. And I saw that ad, and I went, wow. I called them up and said, hey, I do a magic act. Can I come in? And they said, yeah, come on down. So I would go down and perform in this talent show. There was no pay or anything, but it was just very exciting to have a real audience in a nightclub.
Invaluable experience at your time.
And the owner, Peter Outlaw, was a very nice man. He loved my act. He really liked my act. So he kept calling me and then hiring me, to come in, saying, "Oh, we're having a big thing on Saturday. Can you come in and do your act?" Yeah, sure.
Wow.
So yeah.
So at some point here, you're gonna make a career decision, and I got to make a career decision here because I've got to take a quick break, have a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back and continue with Lance Burton and a fascinating, wonderful story that we're listening to here. This is Stephen Jacobs with the Jacobs Ladder Show. By the way, this show with all of our shows are archived on JacobsLadderShow.com. Okay, this one will be up by Saturday. Okay, we'll be right back in 2 and 2. And we're back with the Jacob's Ladder Show here with Lance Burton. And we've got you up to high school now, and you're performing and so forth. And as we left, I said, now there had to be a point here where there was a career decision made.
Yeah.
Are we close, or is there more before that happened?
Yeah, I did. Anyway, I did magic through high school, and then I went to the University of Louisville, and I was a theater major there.
Oh, great!
And I was going to school, and I was taking the, those regular college courses and the theater classes, and I was still performing during the school year at clubs in Louisville, and then during the summertime, my buddy Mac King and I had a job at a summer job at a little amusement park in Kentucky called Tombstone Junction. And it was a small theme park. It was like a western town.
Right.
They only had one ride. And it was a steam locomotive that went around, and then the robbers would stop the train and try to rob it, and then the sheriff would get out and they would have a gunfight.
I see.
And they had country music on the outdoor stage, and then they had the Red Garter Saloon, and Mac and I did our magic show in the saloon. Now, this is the same Mac King who's now headlining over at Harrah's Hotel.
Yeah, I wasn't going to let you slide with that.
Well, Mac and I met at the Louisville Magic Club when we were 14 years old.
Wow.
So we've been best friends ever since then.
That's great.
And I'm the one who talked him into moving to Vegas.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Good for you.
He was living in Los Angeles, and he was performing at colleges and comedy clubs, and I kept telling him, we have an airport in Vegas. If you're going to go do a comedy club or a college, you can live in Vegas and fly out of here. But there's a lot of other opportunities.
Right.
If you come here, I bet you would find some work here. And he finally moved here, and then he started doing his own afternoon show.
Right.
And it's been very successful. So anyway, when we were working at Tombstone Junction, here's the thing. We were doing 3 shows a day, 7 days a week, all summer long.
Oh.
That's 21 shows a week. And when you're doing that many shows, your act starts to get better at a faster rate because you're trying out new things.
Absolutely.
And if it works, you keep it in. If it doesn't work, you throw it out. And that's where both of us kind of polished our acts.
Fine-tuned and polished them, yeah.
So finally, I had entered a contest at a magician's convention in 1980. The International Brotherhood of Magicians, at their annual convention, had this big competition called the Gold Medal Competition. And I had entered, and I won the gold medal. And then the following year, they asked me to come back and perform as a paid performer at the convention. And I did. And it was that following year, 1981, a gentleman saw me there named Bill Larson. Bill Larson and his brother Milt founded the Magic Castle out in Hollywood, California.
Wow.
So he wrote me and said, listen, me and my brother, we're doing this public show in Los Angeles that we do every year. It's called the It's Magic Show. We've been doing this for like 30 years. We want you to come out, and it's 2 weeks, and perform on the show. And I said, fantastic. So I packed up my birds in my car, and I drove out west. And that was the moment when I said, okay, I'm going out now to be a professional magician to Los Angeles. We'll see you guys later. I drove. And that was that moment. But anyway, long story short, I got out to L.A. and I did the show. And because of the appearing on the It's Magic Show, I got my first appearance on national television, which was a Johnny Carson show. And it was the tape of Johnny Carson show that got me my first job in Las Vegas, which was an 8-week contract at the Tropicana Hotel in the Folies Bergère. And that job turned into a 9-year run. And over the 9 years, I kept adding new material and working on my act until I had enough material to do my own show, and I opened my own show at the Hacienda Hotel in 1991, and we were there 5 years. And then the guys that built the Monte Carlo came to see me and said, we're building a new hotel, and we want you to come work for us. And I said, okay. and we opened at the Monte Carlo in 1996.
Well, you're skipping over this little part. Maybe you were going to get to it, but the Monte Carlo
Yes.
built the Lance Burton Theater.
Yeah, that's right.
And
yeah.
it's the first time in the history of Las Vegas
Yes.
that a room had been named
Yes.
after a performer.
That's correct. And I can't take credit for that, though. I would never have the gall to ask for that. It was my manager, Peter Ravine, who sadly passed away a couple of years ago. When he brought the guys in to see me, and they said, here's how the conversation went. He brought them backstage after the show, and he said, "These gentlemen want to build you a theater." I went, "Okay." I said, "Here's," and they told me about their plans for this big new hotel, and I said, "Okay, here's what I'd like. I would like a London West End theater." Because when I was at the Follies Bergère in the 80s, I had done several TV shows over in England, and I'd always gone out to see the musicals and the plays at the West End, and I got to play the Palladium a couple of times on shows. And I fell in love with those London West End theaters.
Absolutely.
And you have to understand, at that time in Las Vegas, all of the showrooms were basically overblown nightclubs. There were chairs and tables and booths.
Right.
And if you're sitting at a long table, you might be facing the stage, or the stage might be over to your side. So you have to kind of twist your body around to watch the show, which is uncomfortable.
Right.
So I said, I want a proper theater with theater seats and a lobby and restrooms in the lobby. And they said, that's fine. And anyway, I signed a 13-year contract, which was the longest contract, I was told, was the longest contract ever given to a live performer in the history of the world. And I stayed for 14 years. And it was a great opportunity. And
well, when you were
but that was Peter's idea. Peter said to me after the meeting, Peter said, "Now, I've told them I want them to name the theater the Lance Burton Theater." And I said, "Oh, geez, Peter, don't say that. You're going to blow this deal."
Well, after what you've related to us, it should have been called the Lance Burton Theater, because you told them how exactly you wanted it designed, with seats and down to the restrooms.
And here's the thing. The year we opened, the Las Vegas Review-Journal Readers Poll voted our theater the best venue in Las Vegas. And since that time, every single theater in every single new hotel which has been built have all taken that approach.
So they took your footprint or your blueprint and
it was successful,
and duplicated
said,
it.
"Oh,
yeah,
okay, that's the way we should go."
Yeah, that's the way you should do it.
So every theater that was built since then has all been
on
modeled
that model.
On that, yes.
Interestingly enough, you very quickly talked about going and playing in Europe, and tell us some of the places you've played in the world.
I didn't do as much traveling as a lot of people, because I always had a gig here in Vegas that I had to come back to. But over the years, we did take the show to a few places. We played in California, the Cerrito Center for the Performing Arts. We did an East Coast tour one time. We played Foxwoods Casino in Connecticut, and then a night in Atlantic City. We took the show to Japan a couple of times, and the last time we were there was we played 3 cities: Osaka, Nagoya, and Tokyo, and it was like a 2-week little trip to Japan, which was a lot of fun. And back in the 80s, when I was in the Follies, I did a little more traveling, because it was very easy to take off for a week, because they could bring in another act to take my place in the show. But I did, trying to remember now all the different places. England, of course. I did TV shows in Spain and Japan. I did industrial shows in Greece, the Bahamas. I was never really a good traveler, though.
Well, but I'm trying to imagine, having seen your act, several times over the years, I'm trying to figure out how you traveled with everything you had to travel.
Well, a
with.
lot of these shows from the '80s, that was a one-man act. It was
Right.
just me or maybe one assistant. So it was I wasn't doing a whole show. I was just doing 15 minutes or 20 minutes. But when I say I was never really a good traveler, I always it was exciting to go to new places and see new things. But I was always homesick. I wanted to come home.
Well, and the amazing thing is you came to Las Vegas and immediately tasted success, and with your being in the Follies, and then being able to develop the things you developed, and then being able to, as we both know, this town can be a tough place sometimes, but somebody always seemed to be waiting for you.
I was very lucky to be in the Folies Bergère because I have friends who also had worked in review shows back during that time.
Right.
And some of the shows, if they hired you to do an act, let's say you did a 10-minute act, and if they hired you to come and be in the show, that's the 10 minutes they want. And if you came in one day and said, I've got this great idea for this new routine I want to put in, they'd go, no. We hired you for that 10 minutes. That's the act we want you to do, which can be very frustrating.
Sure.
If you have ideas that you think are going to be great. But I was lucky because the man who was the producer of the show is named Larry Lee, and Larry was a great boss. He was a fantastic producer and a great guy, and he was always very open to trying new things. I would come in and say, Larry, I got this idea for this new act, and I would describe it to him, and he'd go, oh, that sounds great, let's try it. And he was always like, yeah, let's try it, let's see how it works. And so they gave me the freedom to break in material. And at the end of my run at the Follies, we were doing 2 shows a night, but I was doing 2 completely different acts on the first show and the second show. So it was nice to have that flexibility.
Well, and also in the 90s, television was pretty good to you because you did special shows for NBC, right?
Sure, the TV specials on NBC, and I did. I think I did 4 Lance Burton specials, and then I had a show that I produced and hosted, featuring all young magicians. And I also hosted specials for a number of cable channels, the Discovery Channel and
History Channel.
History Channel. I did a
Animal
couple.
Planet.
Animal Planet. Yeah, you know better than I do. It's all blurred to me.
The Family Channel.
Yeah,
I mean,
Family
you
Channel.
you just marched right through cable television.
They all blend together. It's sometimes I look back at it, and it's as if I walked on stage at Tombstone Junction in 1979, and I did one show that lasted 31 years. And then I walked off stage in 2010 at the Monte Carlo Hotel. And it's just like one long, it was 15,000 shows.
15,000 shows in 30 years.
But
and you squeezed a life in there someplace, right?
it really feels like one show that just lasted for a really long time.
But here's the wonderful thing about what happened with you is early in life you found something that you really enjoyed and you really liked.
Yes.
And then you parlayed that into being able to make a living out of having the most fun that you could have possibly had.
Exactly. You find something you're passionate about and you love, then you'll never work a day in your life. That's exactly right.
Yeah. And what a wonderful career you've had. And,
thank you.
And places you've seen and gone. And you set all kinds of records here in Las Vegas as well. Audience attendance, years played at different places. I mean,
if you live long enough.
And your act is good enough. Well, I will tell you that you have your fellow magicians have credited you with being one of the most fabulous in the field that there's ever been, and it's amazing your career again. I say, and all of the awards and accolades that you have are also proof to your talent.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's easy to say nice things about a retired guy.
Well, speaking of that, I mean, the retirement it didn't last too long, and we're coming up here on a break. But all of a sudden, you decided that you were going to be a producer, a director, and an actor in a film.
Oh yeah.
And when we come back, we're going to talk about this film, and we're going to talk about its debut and where it's going, and how you can get there, and you can be part of this wonderful thing with Lance and his newfound career. Okay, this is Stephen Jacobs with the Jacobs Ladder Show, and welcome back to the Jacobs Ladder Show. This is Stephen Jacobs, and I'm here with Lance Burton, and we're having a pretty great time finding out all about how he got from where he is.
Now, since it's radio, I brought visual aids.
Oh, very good.
Yes. Stephen, that's for you. That's your rubber band. I brought you a nice rubber band to go around your Billy Topit Master Magician poster.
Look at this.
And that's for you right there.
Terrific.
Well, that's the poster for the new movie.
So thank you so much. The new movie we're talking about is apparently retirement is a short-lived thing, even though he doesn't do his magic show anymore. You've put together a film called Billy Topit, and the plot synopsis is a Vegas magician, right?
Right. The plot is a magician in Las Vegas. Billy Topit is a magician in Las Vegas, but he's not a successful magician. He doesn't headline on the Strip. He performs at children's birthday parties.
Oh, okay.
Which we all started.
Right.
So he's kind of stuck in that entry-level job, and all of his friends are the same thing. There's jugglers and a ventriloquist and a mime, and they all perform at the kids' birthday parties, and they hang out after their shows at the local casino coffee shop, and anyway, he's in love with the waitress at the coffee shop.
At the coffee shop. Okay.
Yeah, so he convinces her to be his assistant, and in the meantime, he gets these sort of mob guys, low-level mob wannabe guys, mad at him because he busts them cheating in the casino, and they blame him for the loss of all their money. And so they're trying to collect money from this magician who's barely scraping by.
I gotcha.
And it's a comedy.
Yeah, and many of the performers in this film are actually lots of your friends.
Right, that's exactly right. The jugglers are actually jugglers. And we have a lot of my friends making cameo appearances in the movie. Chris Angel pops up in the movie. Louis Anderson pops up in the movie. We've got Jeff McBride, Matt King, Johnny Thompson, Fielding West. So there's a lot of Las Vegas flavor to the movie. Frankie Shinta, is one of the poker players.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's fun.
Well, the world premiere of Billy Topit Master Magician, for tickets you can go to VarietySN.org, and it's going to be at the Brendan Theaters at the Palms. Red carpet you're going to have at 4.
That's right.
4 p.m. And this is curtain speech and welcome by you,
yes,
Lance Burton, and the cast. You're going to have cast members.
The cast will all be there. They'll all be walking the red carpet. Oh, and the main thing to point out, though, that the world premiere, anyone is welcome to come, and all of the money is going to 3 organizations here in Las Vegas that are very near and dear to my heart. Variety, the children's charity of Southern Nevada, the Las Vegas Shriners, and the Nevada SPCA, which operates a local no-kill animal shelter.
And the date on that
is Thursday, September 24th, at the Palms Hotel in the Brendan Theaters. And we're going to have a red carpet set up, and everyone can walk the red carpet. Oh, and by the way, if you've ever wanted to saw your husband or wife in half, bring them to the movie and walk the red carpet. We're going to have a little display set up where you can saw your significant other in half and get the photo to prove it.
Did you hear that, Carolyn? We're going to the red carpet there. I now have a purpose. And the movie starts at 6.
That's right.
It's $25, and again, that's going all to your charities.
That's right.
And the neat thing is that you have many of the friends performers that were in the show are going to be at the red carpet.
Yeah.
That should be a lot of fun. That whole.
Yeah, it's going to be very exciting, and everyone's very curious because I've been working on this movie for like 5 years now.
Yeah. Let's step back a few paces here and say what. So you retired out of magic, and you're sitting in your home, and you're going, I got to do something. Is that what happened?
No, that's not what happened. The story of how this came about is actually goes back like 40 years. So when I was a kid, every one of my stories starts the same. When I was a kid, it all comes from your childhood.
Right.
When I was a kid, I was about 12, 13 years old. There was a show on television, and starring Bill Bixby.
Oh, I knew Bill.
Remember? Did you ever meet him? I never got to meet him. I was a huge fan. This was in between Courtship of Eddie's Father and The Incredible Hulk. It was a series that only lasted one season, and it was called The Magician.
And he had the Spirit plane.
That's right.
Yep.
The plane and his
Yep.
Corvette.
Yep.
The Spirit.
Spirit.
And that's why in my show at the Monte Carlo, when I made the car appear and disappear,
right.
It was a white Corvette.
Now
it's becoming clear in your mind.
Now
okay?
I got it. Yeah.
So that all came from the Bill Bixby series. So anyway, Bill Bixby played this magician, stage magician, and he would solve crimes, and he would capture the criminals,
right.
and he would kiss the girl, and it was a fantastic, for a kid that loved magic, this was the greatest show ever.
Yeah.
So now we fast forward to about 1985, and I'm at the Tropicana Hotel in Las Vegas. Now I'm a professional magician. I'm working in Las Vegas, so I get cast in an episode of Knight Rider.
Oh.
Starring David Hasselhoff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they had an episode called Deadly Nightshade. And the villain was a magician who also was an assassin on the side. That was me. Yes. I get cast in this part. So now I show up in L.A. and we're shooting this episode, and we shot for 7 days. And the magic advisor on Knight Rider was the same magic advisor that worked on The Magician with Bill Bixby. Was a very famous magician named Mark Wilson.
Oh, absolutely.
You know Mark, yes. When I was a kid, I used to see Mark on his TV specials.
Absolutely, yeah.
So Mark and I, this is where I had met Mark before, but this is really where we became friends. We were hanging out on the set.
Right.
And all of the big magic, I didn't have illusions at the time. It was a very small act. So all of the big illusions in the episode were all Mark's that they rented, and he was there on the set. So Mark and I are hanging out, and we get to, and of course we talk about Bill Bixby and the magician. And so now one day we finish filming, and we're going to dinner after filming that day, and we're in the car, and Mark turns to me and says, "Lance, how do you like doing this work?" And I said, "You mean this TV series? Oh, this is fantastic. I'm having the time of my life. I get to do magic. I get to act. I get to work with the stunt guys. It's great." He says, "Well, you're doing a really good job, and you really should think about doing more of this." And I looked at him and I says, what are you talking about? Do more of this? And he says, "You should start making notes on ideas for a series or a movie or something, combining magic and drama or storytelling." And so that planted the seed in my mind. And so for many, many years, I started taking notes. How would a magician, so basically the thing is, how would a magician solve the problem? You know, if you're in a car chase, we know how James Bond would get out of a car chase. We know how Jason Bourne would do it. How would a magician do it? And so that was sort of the starting point.
Interesting
for this movie. And so finally, one day, we're still working at the hotel doing the show, and one day I call up Michael Goudeau, who was my guest star in the show. Michael's a very, very talented juggler and comedian, but he's also a very talented writer. And I said, I just literally called him up and said, "Michael, what are you doing after work today?" And he says, "Nothing." I says, "Okay, well, you're coming over to my house. We're going to order a pizza, and you and I are going to write a feature film." And he says, "Okay." and that's how it's. And so we wrote the script, and then we just started shooting. But we didn't I'd never directed a feature film before, so I didn't really know what I was doing. So we just did it on the weekends. We just shot once a week or once a month, wherever we could find a location.
Right.
And just sort of learned as we went along.
Well, it's a really interesting journey that you've taken into this venture, and I can hardly wait to see the movie Billy Topit, Master Magician, and world premiere is going to be on September the 24th. That's a Thursday, and it's going to be at the Brendan Theaters at the Palms. Red carpet at 4.
That's right.
And curtain speech and welcome by you, Lance Burton, and cast at 5:30. The movie will start at 6. Tickets are $25. You can go to varietysn.org, and it's varietysn.org, and you can get tickets.
And that is the Variety Children's Charity, Southern Nevada's website.
Right.
And you can also go to BillyTopit.com.
Oh, okay.
You can see the trailer for the movie there. You can see the poster, and there's also a link there that'll take you over to buy the tickets.
And that's Billy, BILLYTOPIT, BillyTopit.com.
Billy Topit.
How do we come up with that name?
It is an inside joke,
Okay.
which all magicians who hear the name all laugh.
Oh, okay.
And go, oh, that's clever, Lance. And everyone else goes, I don't know what that means. I don't know.
Well, we'll leave that as a mystery.
Yeah, that's a
okay?
mystery.
So
That'll all be explained in the sequel.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Billy Topit, The
Billy
Empire Strikes Back.
And I'm definitely going to have you back for that explanation.
Joking.
Again, I said it's been an incredible journey for you, and I'm so excited about this movie that you're doing. I mean, my background came out of movies, so I can hardly wait to see what you've done with.
Well,
this.
it's something that I hope everyone can enjoy. I mean, my show was always a family show. You could bring your kids to the show.
Right.
You could bring your mother and your grandmother to the show, and they would have a good time. And the movie's the same way. It's a family movie, and it's something that I hope long after I'm gone, this movie, Billy Topit, will still be encouraging people to be interested in magic and encouraging people to come to Vegas and promoting Las Vegas. It was all shot on location here in Las Vegas in Southern Nevada.
So once again, we're going to go over this, and the world premiere of Billy Topit, Master Magician, is for tickets. You go to varietysn, varietysn.org. The Brendan Theaters at the Palms on the 24th of September, Thursday. Please arrive early for the 4 o'clock red carpet, and curtain speech and welcome by you and the cast, which is going to be fun at 5:30. Movie at 6 p.m. And tickets are $25. You can also go to BillyTopit.com, and you can see a sneak peek trailer of it, right?
That's correct.
And do all of that.
And if you come to the red carpet, make sure you bring your iPhone with you. You want to get that photo sawing your significant other in half.
Yes. Remember, Carolyn, you're getting sawed in half here.
And we're encouraging people. Take that photo and put it right up on Facebook and Twitter. The pleasure has been all mine for you taking the time out and spending this time with us. I can't thank you enough, Lance, for coming in and sharing your story with us. Okay. My pleasure, Stephen and Carolyn. Thank you for having me on, and it was a great pleasure to meet both of you.
Well, welcome back anytime. And let me say that having seen you perform many times, I will tell you that the fact that you are the eloquent gentleman that you are is no illusion. Okay, you're the real thing, and thank you so much for coming in.
My pleasure. Thank you.
This is Stephen Jacobs with the Jacobs Ladder Show. We're here every Thursday from 1 until 3, and you will be able to see this show along with all of our shows on the Jacobs archives at JacobsLadderShow.com. We'll see you next week again. Thank you.